The office sector in San Francisco is not doing so well, but you already have massive investors that are willing to put $1 billion into this whole entire situation here. So if you check out what's going on here, several big companies are leaving in droves, right? You got guys like Microsoft that's putting the San Francisco office space up for sublease. They're kind of done. They kind of know that there's some AI companies coming in, so they're just going to lease it to some AI companies. But yeah, you got a couple AI companies coming in. You got the OpenAI boys coming in, but you have several hundreds, even thousands of small businesses and startups leaving, and Microsoft, Airbnb, Uber are all downgrading and downsizing their offices like crazy. And now we do have the Trans-America Pyramid. They are going to be going for a big investment, big revamp, but in my opinion, I don't really think putting a massive penthouse skybar is going to be bringing back a lot of employees. In fact, many of the big companies, big offices, they just want to leave San Francisco and go elsewhere. Las Vegas is super close to Cali, and we're seeing a massive inflow of tech companies there. Recently, one of the bigger ones is Skills. They are pretty much leasing like an office in Las Vegas over 100,000 square feet, and they're going nuts. Transamerica Bay. This is a very iconic building. You could kind of say it's the Empire State Building of the West Coast. If you check out what's going on here, this is a great looking building, right? Iconic, big. You know, everyone knows about this building. If you live in San Francisco, if you travel a lot, you probably have seen this landmark. It's impossible to miss. I mean, if you're going to San Francisco, at least check out this landmark, right? It's a very nice looking building, very weird, almost like an upside down triangle and a little pyramid on top. But like I said before, the office space and the height of this building is enormous. This is one of the biggest buildings I've ever seen in San Francisco. And if you zoom out, you can kind of see that office-wise, it's up to par with some of the taller and newer buildings. But like I said, this is a very iconic building, and it's a landmark. So we do have a $1 billion bet. So you do have one of the investors here, Michael. They are going all out. $1 billion on this building. He purchased the iconic 48-story property at 600 Montgomery Street for $650 million in 2020. And of course, that's not enough. They're going to be planning for a $400 million renovation. That includes the tower, adjacent structures, and also a pretty cool looking park as well. I gotta admit, some of these renders do make the place look pretty amazing. And it all really boils down to they want tenants. They want tenants very, very bad. They got a sky bar, which is only available for tenants. And they pretty much say that they want to build a home away from home. But here's the thing. We're seeing many of these towers around the area being rented out for super cheap prices. And like I said, there's no longer big tenants in San Francisco. Buying this building was a pretty good idea back in 2020. Got low rates. Everyone was at home, but everyone in San Francisco believed that people will be coming back to the offices. But that was untrue because 150,000 offices or 150,000 people no longer come to the offices. And this is causing a massive mayhem. So check out Montgomery Street and check out some of these buildings, and let's look at the rent. So you got this building here. It's smaller. It's very touristy. $45 per square feet per year. That's incredibly cheap. In fact, this location at the peak in 2019 was going for $70, even $90 per square feet per year. And we also have this building. It's pretty high end. If you want a skyscraper vibe, you do see it's $55 per square feet per year. And the crazy part is you don't have to pay $55. You could probably spend a lot less money and grab an office space. If you offer the landlord $48, they might even take it. So I don't really think this is a good bet. And like I said, if you already purchased the building for $650 million, okay, even if you regret the purchase, you might as well go all out, do a nearly $500 million renovation, and make it super cool. And maybe you might take the businesses of other buildings. But just let you know that the vacancy rates of San Francisco is crazy. Okay, office vacancies are hitting closer to 40% with many buildings and offices. Yes, they're being leased out, which is the reason why the numbers are not hitting like 50%, but they're not being leased out, right? Many of them, there's leases everywhere, but there's no office workers. There's no office workers in many of these office spaces, And you got guys like Facebook who rented 181 Fremont. They have the lease going for 2031, but they have no employees in this office anymore. It's kind of like WeWork, right? One of the WeWork offices in San Francisco, they're gonna pay till 2036. They pretty much said, screw the contract, we'll rather go to court and pay a penalty. And that's what's going on. So Transamerica Bay Building, I love the idea, but I feel like this idea would have been fantastic before the pandemic. But now, with vacancy super crazy high, and I'm sure the rents for this office are gonna be very expensive, I feel like people are just not gonna be renting this space, right? They're not gonna be renting this space at all. And like, just give me an example. They can't even sell this building for $650 million like what they paid for. They might be able to sell it for half price, which is kind of what happened to the Wells Fargo's building. So Wells Fargo purchased this building for $108 million, right? But they paid this cash, this amount, back in 2005. They originally listed this office building for $160 million, but they only sold it for roughly $40-ish million. So do the quick math, they lost about 70% of the building's value, or I guess value from 2019 prices. That's crazy here. So if you look at the Transamerica Bay building, $650 million, they might find a seller for $300 million. We're seeing many of these office towers selling for 50, 60, 70% off. In fact, many of these office towers, if they're not doing 50% off, you're not gonna get a tenant, right? You're not gonna get a buyer. Many of the rents are dropping like crazy, and you even have guys like Bill Ackman, who is pretty much stopping his bet against treasuries and bonds, saying that there's too much risk in the world to bet against bonds. You're also seeing many rich people who at first thought about blowing a few $100 million on a building in San Francisco. Now they're considering, maybe I should put this money into treasuries and bonds, because you could get like a CD 12 months for 5 to 6%. Some even 10 months, they'll give you 5%. Like, you have a lot of these treasuries and bonds going for such high percentages. Many people are just no longer buying stocks, no longer buying things like offices and condos. So you have a lot of these buildings sitting empty without any sort of tenant. And it's getting pretty bad, right? We're going to be seeing more of this risk coming in, and we'll see more and more people going for things like treasuries. It's a no-brainer. And plus, guys, rents are falling anyway, right? Rents are falling like crazy. If you guys go in pretty hard on this, you're going to be losing a lot of money. Even like the suburban American cities are no longer making that much money. Miami are even getting prices falling in some places and rents. It's just not a great real estate investment area, because like 30-year mortgage, almost 8%. You got to be pretty nuts to buy into that. So thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, like, comment, and subscribe for more.